Calla Winter was the kind of student everyone quietly admired, but no one really knew. She showed up to class every day with dark circles under her eyes and coffee in a reused paper cup. She worked 2 part-time jobs just to survive, one at the library, one at a late-night diner. And when she wasn't working, she was studying, or skipping meals, or rubbing her stomach through the cramps, pretending hunger was just stress. Ramen noodles were her best friend, not out of choice, out of necessity. She couldn't afford to get sick. She couldn't afford to rest. She definitely couldn't afford therapy, no matter how many panic attacks knocked the breath out of her chest. And when things got bad, when her shoes had holes, when her laptop crashed mid-semester, or when her toothache made her cry quietly into her pillow at night, she heard the same words over and over again from her parents. "You know how tight things are, sweetheart. Just hang in there. We're doing our best." So Calla believed them. She didn't complain. She simply learned to live small, to apologize for needing, to be grateful for surviving. She didn't know yet that the struggle wasn't hers to carry. From the outside, Calla's family looked picture perfect. Birthday dinners came with fresh flowers and polished silverware. There were matching outfits for family photos. Her mother always made sure the table settings looked like something out of a magazine. Her father cracked polite jokes about struggling with taxes while pouring imported wine. And no matter how tight things supposedly were, there was always enough for appearances. Guests saw smiles, laughter, and a well-mannered daughter who never asked for anything. What they didn't see was the hunger hiding behind her politeness, the worn shoes under her dress, or the panic attacks she covered with a napkin on her lap. There was only one person who ever saw past the performance, Grandma Vivien. Vivien didn't visit often. She lived 3 hours away in an old Victorian house she refused to sell. She was the kind of woman who sent handwritten cards with a little folded bill inside, even when everyone said not to bother. And every time one of her envelopes arrived, Calla clung to it like hope wrapped in paper. Vivien wasn't perfect, but she was consistent. And in a house full of polished lies, her simple truth felt like light. Calla was counting the days. In just 1 week, she'd be walking across that stage in her cap and gown, diploma in hand, proof that she had made it, that she had survived 4 years of exhaustion, ramen rejection letters, and nights crying quietly into library books. Everyone kept saying how proud they were. "You did it, Calla. You're so strong, honey. We always knew you'd make it." And she tried to believe them. She wanted to. The cap and gown had been rented on a discount code. The dress underneath was thrifted. Her heels had tape inside to keep them from falling apart during the walk. But none of that mattered to Calla, because she thought the hardest part was over. She thought the late-night shifts, the skipped meals, the unpaid therapy bills were now behind her. She thought she had finally crossed the finish line. What she didn't know was that the real test wasn't in the classroom. It was waiting for her in the living room, at her own graduation dinner, wrapped in polite applause and a grandmother's gentle smile, waiting to blow open everything she thought she knew about love, money, and the people who raised her. The room was warm with candlelight, laughter, and the clinking of silverware. Calla sat at the long dining table, flanked by relatives she hadn't seen in years. Her mother floated from guest to guest, beaming like a politician. Her father raised his glass with a forced grin, offering a toast about resilience and family unity. And Calla smiled politely, playing her part, grateful, accomplished, exhausted, until Vivien spoke. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't interrupt anyone. She simply looked at Calla with that quiet, familiar kindness and asked, "Sweetheart, I hope the $1,500 I've been sending each month helped you a little. I know college can be tough." Time stopped. Calla blinked. All sound seemed to drain from the room. The forks froze midair. Conversations hung unfinished. She swallowed. I'm sorry," Calla said, her voice cracking. "What money?" Silence. The kind that doesn't just fill the room, it crushes it. Her mother's face drained of color. Her father's jaw stiffened. A cousin awkwardly set down their glass, trying not to make eye contact. The tension was no longer under the surface, it was right there, pulsing like electricity. Vivien leaned forward, confusion crossing her face. "The money I've been sending your parents, for you, since your freshman year, every single month." And Kala, still frozen, realized something that made her stomach twist. She had never seen a cent. Kala didn't need a confession. She didn't need paperwork. She didn't need a bank statement. Not in that moment. Because her parents' faces told the truth before their mouths ever opened. Her mother, who had been all smiles just minutes before, suddenly looked like a statue. Her lipstick, flawless just moments ago, seemed to crack under the weight of panic. She opened her mouth once, closed it, then reached for her wine glass with a trembling hand. Her father's reaction was colder. He didn't blink, didn't speak. He just stared straight ahead, his jaw locked, eyes blank, like someone trying to mentally erase what had just been said. No one moved. No one breathed. Even the chandelier above seemed to flicker with tension. Kala felt her hands start to shake under the table. She looked at them, these two people who had told her for years that they were doing their best, sacrificing everything for her future. And now, they sat in silence. No denial, no protest, just guilt and fear, and something worse, calculation. Because Kala could see it, the wheels already turning in her mother's head, spinning a lie. Rewriting a new version of the story before anyone else could speak first. And in that moment, Kayla realized this wasn't an accident. It was a choice, made over and over again, month after month, lie after lie. Kayla didn't scream. She didn't flip the table. She didn't accuse or shout. She didn't even cry. Because this wasn't the kind of pain that exploded. It was the kind that sank, quiet, heavy, like a stone dropped into deep water, rippling silently in every direction. She sat there staring at the faces that had raised her, feeling something shift deep inside her bones, a cracking, a collapsing, and then a clarity. All the late night shifts, all the skipped meals, all the times she felt like a burden, the panic attacks, the shame, the guilt, the exhaustion. It had all been based on a lie, not an accident, not a misunderstanding, but a conscious decision. Her parents had looked her in the eyes for 4 years and told her they couldn't help. When they could. They let her suffer, so they could save face, so they could control the narrative, so they could decide when and if she was worthy of support. Kala's stomach turned. She looked at her mother's shaking hand, her father's clenched jaw, and one thought echoed in her mind. If they lied about the money, what else have they lied about? Kala couldn't sleep. She lay in her childhood bedroom staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars still stuck to the ceiling, a relic of simpler days, back when she believed every word her parents told her. By morning, the weight in her chest had turned into purpose. Vivien picked her up at dawn. They didn't say much during the drive, just exchanged glances that said, "We're going to find out everything." At the bank, Kyla handed over her ID and her social security number. The representative typed, then paused. "According to our records, there are 3 accounts in your name, 2 active and 1 joint, opened 7 years ago." Kyla's heart stopped. "Joint with who?" Elaine Winter, the banker, replied. "Your mother." Her throat went dry. "That's not possible. I never opened a joint account with her." The banker double-checked. "It was opened when you were 17, signed by both of you." Kala leaned forward. "I never signed anything." She knew what that meant. Forgery. Her mother had forged her signature, opened an account in her name, and then controlled everything behind her back, every transfer Vivien had made, every dollar she had trusted the family with. It all went there. Not to Kala, not to college, but into a prison made of lies with Kala's name stamped on the door. Kala had barely hung up with the bank when she sent the text, "Need to talk, urgent, about money, family." It had been years since she spoke to her cousin Miran, once her childhood best friend, now a stranger shaped by silence and distance. But within minutes, her phone buzzed. "You finally figured it out." When they met, Miran didn't waste time on pleasantries. "They did it to me, too," she said flatly. "My college fund, gone. Grandpa left it for me. Dad said he'd manage it. By sophomore year, it had disappeared." Kala felt her throat close. "Why didn't you tell me, Miran?" Shrugged. "I tried. You defended them, said I was bitter, said I was jealous. After that, my parents made sure we stopped hanging out. They said I was a bad influence." Kala suddenly understood something chilling. Her isolation wasn't accidental. It was designed, carefully curated, controlled. And then came another name, one long buried in family gossip, Julian, her father's older brother, the one who'd vanished from holidays, the one her parents always said was unstable. Vivien made the call. Julian arrived an hour later, gray-haired, lean, kind-eyed, and angry. "Your father cut me out of the estate when I questioned some financial transactions after our mother died. He said I was ungrateful. I said I was trying to protect her legacy." He opened a folder. Inside were bank statements, checks, letters, proof. "Porter's been doing this for years, Kala," Julian said. "To other family members, to me, to Miran, and now to you." The folder sat heavy in Kala's lap. Inside were 4 years' worth of transfers, every single one signed, sealed, and confirmed. Neatly organized by Vivien, every page showed the same thing, $1,500, every month, without fail, plus birthday bonuses, holiday checks, even a $3,000 deposit labeled Writing Program Northwestern. Kala flipped through them slowly. Each document felt like a gut punch. Each confirmation wasn't just proof, it was betrayal printed in black and white. She didn't cry. Her hands trembled, but her eyes stayed dry. There was no room left for shock, only clarity. "They knew," she whispered. "They knew I was drowning, and they let me." Vivien sat silently beside her, a hand resting gently on her shoulder. "I trusted them," Kala said. "I believed they were doing the best they could." She looked back down at the folder. $100,000. Gone. Diverted. Stolen. Not by strangers, by her own parents. She stood up, walked to the mirror across the room, stared at her reflection, eyes hollow, face pale, jaw tight. And then quietly, she said it out loud. "I'm not crazy. I've been betrayed." The cafe was small, quiet, and forgettable, exactly what Kala needed. No childhood photos, no family portraits staring down from the walls, just neutral space. 4 chairs, a table, and the truth. Vivien offered to come, so did Julian. But Kala wanted to do this part alone. She arrived early, choosing a corner seat with a clear view of the door. She placed her phone face up on the table, recording app already running. No secrets, no denials, not this time. Her parents walked in 5 minutes late, mother in pearls, father in pressed slacks, as if they were attending a charity brunch, not the unraveling of their daughter's trust. "Kala," her mother began, voice syrupy sweet, "we've been so worried." Kala didn't stand, didn't smile, didn't flinch. "Sit down," she said evenly. "We're having a conversation, that's all." They obeyed. Her father glanced at the phone. "Is that recording?" "Yes," Kala replied, "so we remember exactly what was said." A pause. Then her voice cut through the air, calm and steady. "Where is the money Grandma sent me?" No build-up, no warm-up, just the truth, laid bare. Her mother blinked. Her father cleared his throat. But Kala didn't back down. No tears, no hesitation. Only one mission: to make them answer. The silence was suffocating. Kala waited. Her parents exchanged glances, the kind you only notice once you've stopped trusting the people giving them. Then her mother leaned in, eyes wide, lips trembling, and let out a perfectly timed sob. We were going to give it to you," she whispered, voice breaking. "It was meant as a surprise. After graduation, we just wanted to protect you." Kala didn't blink, didn't soften. She'd seen this performance before, too many times. "You wanted to protect me by lying to me for 4 years," she said, her tone razor sharp. Her mother flinched. Her father cleared his throat and straightened his shoulders, like a CEO explaining a failed merger. "We managed the money," he said, calm and measured. "We made financial decisions on your behalf, as any responsible parents would." Kala stared at him. Responsible parents don't forge signatures. Responsible parents don't lie about emergency money while their daughter skips dentist visits and cries herself to sleep. His jaw tightened. "You don't understand adult responsibility," he snapped. "There are things you're too young to grasp." And there it was. Not remorse, not apology, just control. The mask slipped just for a moment, and underneath it wasn't guilt, it was arrogance. The room was tense. Kala sat motionless, her parents frozen across from her, one still crying, the other simmering with quiet rage. And then a voice rose from behind her, clear, steady, unshakable. Vivien had arrived. She'd been standing at the entrance the whole time, just in case. Now she stepped forward, her presence slicing through the tension like a knife through silk. Enough. Both parents turned toward her, startled. "Elaine, Porter, I've listened long enough, and I've watched long enough." She walked to Kala's side and placed a hand on her granddaughter's shoulder. "From this day forward, I will not allow anyone, family or not, to destroy this girl under the name of love." Her voice was calm, but it thundered. Not with guilt, not with lies, not with manipulation hidden behind motherhood. Kala felt the weight of years lift inch by inch. Her mother opened her mouth, but Vivien raised a hand. "No more stories. No more theater. You had your chance to tell the truth. You chose control. So now we choose clarity." She looked at Kala. "Let's go." And with that, 3 generations sat in silence until 2 of them stood up and left. Kala didn't cry the next morning. She emailed a law firm instead. Within 48 hours, she was seated across from Attorney Mayhew. Sharp suit, sharper eyes, and a file folder labeled Winter vs. Winter. "You're not the first daughter I've seen at this table," Mayhew said, "but you could be the first one to win." They began the work. Bank statements, forged signatures, email records, a paper trail so precise it bled intent. Vivien provided sworn affidavits. Julian handed over copies of estate paperwork from years ago. Kayla stayed silent through most of it, just nodding until she saw the withdrawal receipts. Tens of thousands. Labeled groceries, insurance, miscellaneous. "They called this a family emergency," Kala said coldly, while I lived off instant noodles. And then came the letter. From her mother, handwritten, flowery, desperate. "Kala, please don't do this. We're family. You'll ruin everything." No mention of the theft, no apology, just guilt, just control again. Kala folded the letter in half, calm, then dropped it into the shredder beside Mayhew's desk. "Now we start over," she whispered, "with people who actually deserve to be called family." The courtroom was cold, sterile, but Kala's voice burned. She stood behind the witness podium, back straight, hands trembling just slightly. She looked at the judge, then at the gallery, and finally at her parents. "I worked 2 jobs," she said, her voice steady. "I skipped medical appointments because I didn't want to burden them. I lived off dollar meals and told myself I was strong. She took a breath, lips tightening. But they weren't struggling. I was. She held up the printed bank statements. Lines of withdrawals, tropical resorts, 5-star dinners, designer bags. They were traveling the world, using money my grandmother sent for me, for school, for survival. The courtroom was dead silent. Kala's voice cracked just once. I was told to be grateful for parents who sacrificed everything. She looked down, then up again. But the truth is, they sacrificed nothing. They just took. And with that, she sat down. No theatrics, no tears. Just the undeniable weight of betrayal laid bare on record. The judge adjusted his glasses. His eyes scanned the courtroom from Kala to her parents to the thick binder of evidence on the bench. He cleared his throat. In cases involving family, the damage runs deeper than numbers. But what I've seen today are not misunderstandings. They are patterns, and patterns leave scars. Silence. Kala sat frozen. This court finds sufficient cause to proceed with formal investigation, the judge continued. Subpoenas will be issued, financial records will be reviewed, and the full truth, whatever it is, will come to light. No celebration. Just breath held, then released. Kayla's attorney placed a quiet hand on her arm. "That's the first door opening," he whispered. And for the first time in a long, long time, Kayla believed it. Not everything was lost. Not all systems were broken. Some voices, even hers, could still matter. 1 year later, the courtroom was just a memory. But Kala's voice was everywhere. From her small bedroom-turned studio, she hit record. You're listening to Inheriting Silence, a podcast about the things families never talk about, but should. It wasn't polished at first. Episodes were recorded between part-time shifts and late-night edits. The sound quality? Rough. The message? Unshakable. Kala told her story. From the fake smiles to the fake accounts. And then she invited others. A girl who lost her college fund to a gambling uncle. A boy whose parents controlled his bank card until age 25. A woman who discovered her inheritance had been spent before she turned 18. Their stories weren't identical, but the silence that trapped them, that was the same. And with each episode, something cracked, not just in families, but in listeners too. Letters poured in, so did gratitude. And slowly, painfully, Kala realized she hadn't just survived betrayal, she'd built a bridge over it for others to walk across. It came in a plain white envelope. No return address, no apology, no please. Just 8 lines, typed, cold, final. I see you've moved on. I hope you're happy. We did what we thought was best. Maybe that was a mistake. Goodbye. For the first time, there was no begging, no gaslighting, just distance. Kala stood in the backyard with the letter in her hand. No audience, no camera. Just her and a match. She read it once more, then knelt by the fire pit. I'm not angry anymore, she whispered. I'm just done. The flames rose quickly, curling the paper, eating the past. The smoke smelled like release. She didn't cry, she didn't smile. She just watched the fire and let go. The courtroom battle was over, but Kala knew her fight wasn't. She took a portion of the settlement money and built something no one could steal, the Vivien Trust for New Beginnings, a scholarship for students who had been silenced, for those who, like her, had been told, there's no money, you're asking too much, be grateful. The trust didn't just pay tuition, it paid for therapy, rent, a second chance. Kala didn't name it after herself. She named it after the one person who never stopped believing, Vivien. The grandmother who kept writing checks and hoping someone would one day find the truth. Now, that hope had a name, a mission, a legacy. And this time, no one would forge it, steal it, or bury it. The spotlight was soft, but the silence was electric. Kala stood behind the podium, hands steady, eyes clear. A sea of suits stared back. Bankers, lawmakers, nonprofit leaders. People who had never tasted instant noodles for dinner. People who had no idea what financial abuse even meant. Until now. She leaned toward the mic. I didn't lose my family on the day I graduated, she began. I lost the illusion of them. A pause. Then, for years, I believed struggling made me noble, but I was never meant to struggle alone. The truth is, some wounds don't bleed. They compound. A screen behind her flickered to life. Photos of young students, anonymous letters, stories sent to inheriting silence. This isn't rare, Kala said. This is a pandemic no one talks about. And that day, her voice didn't shake, because it wasn't just hers anymore. It was thousands, and it was rising. The subject line was simple. Thank you. Kala almost deleted it until she saw the sender, Lily, age 16. Hi, I found your podcast through my school library. My parents always said I was selfish for asking about my own money. I thought I was crazy. But after episode 4, I asked my math teacher for help. She got me to a counselor. I just wanted to say, you saved me. Kala blinked, then reread it out loud. Vivien sat beside her in silence. And then the tears came. Not from pain, but from knowing they'd cracked something open and someone had walked through. Vivien whispered, This is why we fought. Kala didn't reply to the email right away. She just stared at the screen and whispered, You're not crazy, Lily. You're just the first in your family to break the silence. The screen was blank, a blinking cursor, a new document. A new chapter. Kala sat at her desk, sunlight filtering through the curtains. Her coffee had gone cold, but her purpose burned hot. She placed her fingers on the keyboard, typed the very first line of her memoir. I was once the silent girl at a graduation dinner. Now I'm the voice for those still too afraid to speak. She stared at the sentence. No edits, no doubt. It was true. And for the first time, she wasn't writing to survive. She was writing to free. Not every wound bleeds. Some wounds are quiet, and those are the ones that break us the most. Kala's story teaches us that. You are not selfish for asking hard questions, even if it means questioning your own parents. Family doesn't always mean safety. Sometimes real love begins with walking away. The truth may hurt, but it's also what sets you free. So if you've ever been made to feel like you're a burden, remember this. You're not ungrateful. You're just finally seeing things clearly. If this story moved you, if you believe silence can be a form of abuse too, subscribe to this channel. Not just for more stories like Kala's, but to remind yourself, your voice matters. Your pain deserves to be heard. Tap subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this video. You never know who needs to hear it today.